Tarkir Dragonstorm is shaping to be an incredible set with strong cards and an original magic feel along with it. To honor the plane of Tarkir, we are building around a commander with a ton of lore and love for dragons. Sarkhan Dragon Ascendant is a 2-mana 2/2 that can create you a treasure when he enters if you control or reveal a dragon. And through his passion for his scaly friends, whenever a dragon we control enters, he gets a +1/+1 counter and becomes a flying dragon until end of turn. Now this isn't the first time we've seen Sarkhan shapeshift into a dragon, but his ability is incredibly fun, and we plan to fly along our dragon friends in a mono-red dragon tribal deck. If you enjoy the themed build, be sure to give the video a like and subscribe to Common Command for more content including EDH gameplay. The link to the deck list is below along with our TCG player affiliate link if you want to further support the channel. To start this deck off, we're going to quickly cover our ramp package. We're playing some pretty big creatures, so we made sure to pack enough mid-game ramp that can help produce big mana as well as the best type of ramp, cost reducers. But first we have the basic Soul Ring, Mind Stone, and Wayfarer's Bauble for some easy early game ramp. Ruby Medallion, Hazard's Monument, Herald's Horn, Dragonlord's Servant, and Dragon Speaker Shaman will all reduce the amount of mana that it will cost to cast our creatures. These cards can save us upwards of 2 to 3 mana a turn and get only better the longer the game goes on, especially if we have multiple out on the field. Thran Dynamo is another good mid-game card for a burst of ramp, while Descent into Avernus is perfect to play down early and let the treasure and damage start to build up. Since we're playing dragons, we will be more aggressive on the offense, and this card will only aid us in picking off our opponents while giving the table some much needed ramp. And lastly, we have Dragon's Horde. It's a bit much just for a rock to produce red mana, but its built-in card draw makes it completely worth playing once we need to start getting a little deeper into our deck. Speaking of card draw, let's see exactly how else we plan to keep our hand full. Faithless Looting, Big Score, and Unexpected Windfall will let us filter through our deck, letting us keep the cards we want and dropping the ones we don't. Wheel of Misfortune is a great budget wheel card that mostly works in the favor of the whole table, and Bitter Reunion is more impulse draw with an incredible ability. This 2-drop enchantment lets you discard a card to draw 2 cards, but then sticks around on the field until you're ready to sack it and give all your creatures haste, a very great kit for the deck. Vanquisher's Banner will let us draw whenever we cast a dragon while providing a small buff to our creatures. Last up, we have Recurable Card Advantage with Visions of Phyrexia, Count on Luck, and Furious Rise. They each essentially draw us an extra card each turn, with the only downside of having to play it that turn. These are great cards and worth picking up for other decks. Now with the basics out of the way, let's cover the dragons I chose to be in the deck. There are more than enough red dragons to make a tribal deck, so be sure to give a good Scryfall search and pick out the ones you like best. I want to start off with a new dragon that is right on theme. Stormscale Scion is insanely good, being a 6-mana 4/4 that gives other dragons +1/+1 and has Storm. Not only does this card rally up our team with a buff, but it also makes copies of itself if we cast dragons or any other spell before it. It's a great card that can outright win you the game if you've cast enough spells that turn. Goldspan Dragon is a nice 4/4 with haste that ramps us with treasure. Utvara Hellkite is a big mana dragon that cares about our ally of dragons attacking. This 8-mana 6/6 will create 6/6 dragon tokens whenever a dragon we control attacks. If we bring this out with our commander on field, it'll turn our commander into a dragon. We can then swing with our commander and make an additional 6/6 right away. Twin Flame Tyrant is a recent card but a bit pricey, but it has our sources deal double damage, making attacks lethal really quick. Wrathful Red Dragon is more utility, being a 5/5 flyer. With it out, whenever our dragons take damage, we get to deal that much damage back to anything that's not a dragon. This will make our dragons even more intimidating when held back for blocking, and sort of combos with any board wipe that is damage based, like Blasphemous Act. If we have 3 dragons out and cast a board wipe on ourselves, our dragons would all take 13 damage, letting us deal 3 instances of 13 or a whopping 39 to a single player. This card has great potential and serves as a big threat. Thunderbreak Regent has a similar ability but not as strong, letting us bolt anyone who decides to target our dragons for 3 damage. Hellkite Tyrant will let us steal artifacts from opponents that are dealt combat damage by it, and alternatively wins us the game on our upkeep if we control 20 or more artifacts. Balefire Dragon is a classic 6/6 for 7 mana. When this flying dragon deals damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each of its creatures. Drakuseth's Maul of Flames has some scary attack triggers, while Skyline Deposit will have us rightfully become the monarch and make us dragons on our upkeep if we're able to stay the monarch. Terror of Mount Velis gives our dragons double strike when he enters, but Terror of the Peaks will start dishing out damage based on our creature's power when they start hitting the field. In the late game, if we have a ton of mana with a team of dragons out, Hellkite Charger will let us use that mana for extra combats. Scourge of the Throne can also get us combats, but we have to be swinging at the player with the most life. Avaricious Dragon is an amazing creature. It will let us draw an extra card on our turn, but have to discard our hand at the end of turn. It's perfect for the mid to late game after we throw out our hand and need a little more gas to keep playing. Territorial Hellkite is a scary 4 mana 6/5 that has to attack a player at random that it didn't attack last turn. Dragon Mage is another sleeper dragon. This giant 5/5 will let everyone wheel into a new hand every time it hits. We can play out our dragons before getting a new 7 when we swing. And of course, we had to include the classic Shivan Dragon to lead the way. Honestly, we have so many dragons to choose from that it made cutting down real hard. But next I want to share a few more cards that, similar to our commander, care about dragons entering the field. Lathlis Dragon Queen will create 5/5 dragon tokens every time a non-token dragon enters the field. Dragonhawk Fate's Tempest will act as card advantage, exiling cards from our library that we can play until end of turn based on the number of creatures we have that are power 4 and above. And if we don't play those cards, they each turn into instances of 2 damage to each opponent. Nox Astral Hunter will create treasures every time a dragon enters. But next we have 2 cards that are game ending. Dragon Tempest will give our dragons haste, which is extremely useful, but it, similar to Scourge of Valkis, will deal damage to a target based on the number of dragons we control whenever a dragon enters. This gets out of hand quickly, especially since we have some dragons that make other dragons. The damage racks up and ends up being a consistent downfall to our opponents if left unchecked. While we're at it, let's mention a few more utility cards to round out the deck and make it even more oppressive and consistent. We'll start with this deck's Hidden Hero, a card that will ensure we continue to have dragon ETB effects for our commander and the cards we just mentioned, that card being Conjurer's Closet. At our end step, we'll be able to flicker a creature, most likely a dragon. That dragon will enter, and at its minimum, it will give our commander another +1/+1 counter. But its ceiling has much more to offer with all the ETB matter cards we have in the deck, like Terror of the Peaks and Warstorm Surge. To make sure we are really doubling down on our dragons, we also included Panharmonicon. This artifact will double all the ETB effects from creatures entering, including the number of counters that our commander can receive from each dragon. Lightning Greaves and Mithril Coat will act as great protection to keep our commander around and safe. We didn't pile too much into the Voltron theme, instead wanting to focus on the interactions between all the dragons than just our commander. Dragon Master Outcast will have the potential to summon dragon tokens once we meet that land requirement, while Bone Horde Dracusar will let us see an extra 2 cards on a turn that we can cast and play. We have a little more ETB damage with the fitting Sarkhan's Unsealing. Whenever a creature with power 4 to 6 enters, we do 4 damage to any target, but a power 7 creature or greater will enter and deal 4 damage to each opponent. Sarkhan Fireblood will act as card draw and ramp on an uptick for a very useful and flavorful planeswalker. Rising of the Day will provide haste to our creatures and a little +1/+0 to our commander or any other of our legendary creatures. And last up, we have the Accolade of the deck, a card that will provide us so much value and board state, that card being Molten Echoes. This enchantment will generate us a token copy of our dragons every time one of them enters the field. It essentially lets us double up on the amount of dragons we bring in, giving our commander an extra counter and letting us swing and use the dragon that came in immediately while still having the original back and safe. It's an amazing card for this tribal deck and will do wonders for you. To finish off the deck, we do have more cards that will put us in a huge winning position. Shared Animosity and Door of Destinies will pump our board, basically based on how many dragons we have swinging or that we are able to cast. This effect will also pump our commander since he becomes a dragon when a dragon enters. They're amazing cards that will close out games with one big swing. I also want to highlight one last card that we included for a little bit more flavor, Dragonstorm. This insanely costly 9 mana sorcery will let us tutor a dragon from our library into play, but it has Storm. It's far too high to consistently get off, but honestly, 9 mana to get any dragon from our deck to the field isn't too bad for mono red, but when it shines, it can do insane work and throw a win our way if we've got the mana. And with that, the deck is complete. For a complete list of the deck, including lands and removal, visit the link below. If you enjoy the theme build and want to see more content including EDH gameplay, subscribe to the channel and check out what we've got. If you want to further support Common Command, consider using our TCG Player affiliate link when making purchases from the site. This deck was a ton of fun to build and probably is more fun to play. Tarkir is looking to be an insanely fun set, and I've got more Tarkir deck techs coming your way.